The village of Ekunde lay nestled in the cradle of an ancient forest, where the trees whispered secrets to one another and the rivers sang lullabies to the earth. Time moved slower there, like the crawl of a tortoise over some warm stones. People spoke with reverence, hunted with gratitude, and feared the old things, the things older than fire and language. At the edge of this village lived Obasi, a man of humble means but a heart large enough to hold the entire forest. He was a herbalist, one of the few who still knew how to pluck healing from the leaves, how to draw strength from bark, how to read the signs of the earth. But wisdom did not fill empty stomachs. His wife, Nena, had skin like rain-soaked earth and eyes that had once shone like stars. Now, they carried the weight of worry. Their 2 children, Ejike and Amoka, were growing thinner by the day. The rains had not been kind that season. The soil had grown stubborn, refusing to yield its bounty. Every morning, Obasi walked into the forest with his satchel, searching for herbs he could trade for yam, salt, or dried fish. But people no longer valued the old ways. They preferred powder from city pharmacies, bottled magic in blue plastic jars. Obasi's medicine sat on dusty shelves, unsold. One evening, as thunder rumbled over Ekunde and the sky darkened like burnt cloth, Obasi found himself far from home, lost in thought and sorrow. The storm broke with sudden fury. Rain lashed the trees. Lightning danced across the sky. Obasi ran, barefoot and soaked, until he stumbled upon the one place even the boldest hunters avoided, the foot of the sacred Iroko tree. The tree rose like a god from the earth, its roots gnarled and exposed like ancient veins, its trunk wider than a house. It was said the spirits lived in its branches, and that those who lingered there after nightfall never returned the same. But Obasi had no choice. He dropped to his knees under its great arms, panting, drenched, heart thudding in his chest. And that was when he appeared. From behind the curtain of rain, a man stepped out. Or something that looked like a man. He was dressed in simple raffia cloth, but his skin shimmered faintly, like dew in moonlight. His eyes, too pale, too knowing, glowed ever so slightly in the gloom. "Cold night to be out," the man said softly, voice like wind through reeds. Obasi stood, cautious but not unkind. "The storm caught me." The man smiled. "It catches us all, one way or another." They sat together in silence for a long while. The rain softened. Then the man turned and looked at Obasi as though reading his soul. "You have a good heart," he said. "But good hearts do not feed empty bellies." Obasi clenched his jaw, shame rising like bile. "I have done all I can. The land is stubborn. The people trade in coins, not leaves. You want to give your family more." "I want them to eat," Obasi said bitterly. "I want my wife to sleep without crying. I want my son to stop asking why he feels weak. I want something to change." The man nodded, slowly. "I can give you more," he said. Obasi turned, frowning. "There is a path. Not an easy one. But it will bring you what you seek: gold, spices, respect, strength. You will become the man the world listens to. But it comes at a cost." Obasi said nothing. He had heard of tricksters, spirits in disguise. But there was something steady in the man's tone, something terrifyingly calm. "What cost?" he whispered. The stranger leaned in, eyes glinting. "You must sleep beside the sacred serpent. Every night. For 7 moons. Obasi recoiled. "A snake." "Not just any," the man said. "The keeper of wealth beneath the earth. It does not harm unless betrayed. But it is not a friend. It is older than you can imagine. And it will be with you while you sleep. Curled beside you. Watching." Obasi's skin turned cold. "Why me?" "Because you still believe," the man said. "You still know the old ways. And because desperation opens doors no one else can see." A long silence passed. Then the stranger held out his hand. Say yes, and it begins tomorrow night. You will meet the serpent in your heart, and from then, you must let it lie beside you. Touch it not. Speak to it not. And do not break the ritual. Obasi stared at the hand. Images raced through his mind, his daughter crying herself to sleep, his son's ribs pressing through thin skin, Nena trying to laugh while her stomach twisted with hunger. He took the hand. That night, Obasi told Nena everything. At first, she thought he was fevered. Then afraid. Then angry. You will bring evil into our home, she whispered, eyes wild. This is not a blessing, it is a trap. We are starving, Obasi said. This is our last hope. We have survived before. With what? Obasi snapped. Hope doesn't cook yam. Dreams do not clothe children. If you have another way, tell me. But I am done watching my family fade into shadows. Nena wept. But a serpent. I will protect you, he promised. You and the children will not even see it. She shook her head. You do not understand. Once you bring such spirits close, they do not leave empty-handed. I already have nothing left to give, he said. But he was wrong. The next night, as the village slept and the moon drifted behind clouds, Obasi lay on his mat, awake, heart thudding. And then, it came. From the dark corner of the hut, a glow began to spread, green and pulsating like the breath of the forest. Out from the shadows slithered a serpent, longer than a man, with scales like polished emeralds and eyes like twin lanterns. It coiled beside him with slow, deliberate grace. Obasi did not move. Did not breathe. The serpent's head rested inches from his shoulder. And then, it spoke. Not with words, but a voice inside his mind. Deep. Measured. Cold. 7 moons. No fear. No touch. No betrayal. Obasi did not reply. And slowly, ever so slowly, sleep took him. The forest had never felt so silent. Obasi stood at the edge of a clearing hidden deep in the womb of the forest, where the trees bowed inward, as though paying homage to something ancient and powerful. Nduka, the mysterious stranger who had appeared beneath the sacred Iroko tree, led him forward without a word. The air buzzed with energy, heavy with unseen eyes and whispers riding the wind. In the center of the clearing stood a stone circle overgrown with moss and vines. Strange symbols etched deep into the rock pulsed faintly under the moonlight. Nduka stopped and extended his arm. This is where you will lie, he said softly, his voice like wind brushing dry leaves. 7 nights. No less. Speak not. Run not. Surrender to the silence. Obasi's throat tightened. Will it harm me? Nduka turned slowly. That depends on how still your soul is. Before Obasi could respond, the ground before him shifted. There was no sound, no slither, no hiss, but suddenly, the emerald serpent was there. It was massive. Its body shimmered like wet jade, scales overlapping like living armor. It moved with regal silence, eyes like twin moons glowing yellow-green. Obasi fell to his knees, heart thundering. The serpent circled him once, close enough for him to feel the chill radiating from its body. Then it lay beside him, coiled and watchful, its head resting inches from his chest. Obasi dared not move. The serpent did not blink. It only breathed, slow and steady, exhaling a strange coldness that seeped into Obasi's bones. Time lost meaning. He stared into its eyes and saw flickers, visions. A firelit throne. Children playing in golden robes. A garden of withered trees. A shadow shaped like a man, but whose eyes were hollow and endless. Then the serpent spoke, not with a voice, but a vibration inside his skull. You seek wealth. Wealth brings weight. "Can you carry it, man of roots and leaves?" Obasi could not answer, even if he wanted to. He didn't sleep. He didn't speak. But he survived the night. When dawn spilled into the clearing, the serpent vanished as silently as it had come. Enduka was gone. Birds sang again, and the wind lost its bite. Obasi stood on shaking legs, walked home through the thick trees, and reached his hut just as Nena was preparing a meager meal of boiled yam and water leaf. Her face brightened when she saw him, then quickly dimmed at his hollow eyes and pale lips. "Obasi," she asked, stepping closer. "What happened?" He didn't speak. He only looked at her, then reached down to his mat. There, nestled in the folds of the raffia grass, lay a nugget of pure gold, no larger than a yam seed, but gleaming like the sun. Nena gasped. Where did this come from?" Obasi stared at it, then whispered, "It has begun." The second night, the serpent coiled tighter. Obasi lay on the cold earth, heart racing, the serpent's breath on his neck. Again, it spoke in riddles, and again, visions danced in his mind. The hungry roots drink fastest. But beware the fruit that glows before its season. In the morning, Obasi found a sack by the door of his hut, cowries, more than he'd ever seen. He gave some to the village tailor to buy clothes for the children. He took a handful to the market and returned with rice, beans, even dried fish. For the first time in many moons, the family ate until their bellies ached with joy. Nena tried to celebrate, but a shadow lingered in her heart. She watched her husband's face as he chewed, expression blank, eyes distant. By the third morning, there were gems beneath the pillow, red like blood, green like leaves, blue like river stones. He sold one to a merchant who whispered that it was worth a king's ransom. By the fourth, Obasi began construction on a new home. A grand compound with carved pillars, red clay walls, and a thatched roof reinforced with palm wood. He hired men from neighboring villages, paid them double what they asked, and was praised as a generous man. People began to talk. Some said Obasi had been favored by the gods. Others whispered of blood rituals, forest spirits, and dark deals. Children peeked through fences. Old women crossed themselves when he passed. But Obasi didn't care. He smiled faintly, waved when waved to, and each night, returned to the forest, where the serpent waited. By the fifth night, Obasi no longer feared the serpent. He lay beside it willingly, and though its presence still chilled him to the marrow, it now felt familiar. Like a part of him. Like an old friend. But it spoke darker riddles now. All who drink from the silver stream must one day bleed into it. That night, Obasi dreamed of fire. He stood in his compound as flames licked at the walls. Nena and the children screamed from inside. He tried to move, but his legs were roots. His hands melted into gold. The serpent was coiled around his throat, whispering, "You paid. But the cost is not done." He awoke in sweat, his hands trembling. Nena sat by the window, unable to sleep. "You don't talk in your sleep anymore," she said quietly. "You mutter in riddles. You speak names I don't know. Sometimes, you hiss." Obasi looked away. "The world will change everything. The children will go to school. You'll never work again. But you're changing too," she whispered. On the sixth night, something changed. Their younger son, Ejike, only 6, woke in the middle of the night and wandered to the edge of the compound. Something had stirred him. A presence. A sound. And there, just past the banana trees, he saw it. A great emerald serpent, eyes glowing, body coiled beside a sleeping man. His father. Ejike screamed. Obasi jerked awake. The serpent turned toward the boy. For a heartbeat, time stopped. Then, with a hiss like leaves rustling, it vanished into the earth. Nena rushed outside and found Ejike sobbing, eyes wide with fear, pointing at the ground. I saw it, Mama. A big snake. With Papa. It looked at me. Obasi stood, silent, distant. Nena looked from her son to her husband and realized, the serpent was no dream. By the 7th morning, Obasi could no longer hide the thaw. His once warm skin had grown pale, almost ashen. His eyes had a faint yellow hue, and his smile, when it came, was tight and distant. He spoke less to Nena. He no longer laughed with the children. At night, he often sat awake, staring at the walls, murmuring to himself. He flinched at sudden light. He refused food seasoned with garlic or pepper. The warmth of the hearth no longer comforted him. That morning, he found a chest beside his bed, filled with spices from distant lands. Cinnamon, cardamom, star anise. The village had never seen such treasures. But Nena no longer rejoiced. That evening, she watched her husband rise again, silently, and walk toward the forest. Obasi, she said, voice trembling. If wealth means losing your soul, then we are not rich. We are cursed. He paused at the doorway, turned to her with hollow eyes. It's just one more night. The winds in Ekunde had always sung with the scent of leaves and the laughter of birds. But now, they whispered something colder, something wrong. Obasi heard them first. At dawn, as the village stirred and roosters cawed, Obasi sat in his newly furnished study, its walls adorned with exotic fabrics and carved idols gifted by merchants. The window was open, and the breeze slithered in. Rise, bearer of emerald oats. He blinked. The voice was not Nena's, nor a neighbor's. It was thin, reverberating, threaded with a hiss. He stood quickly, knocking over his stool. Gold is never free. Obey. Protect what you've gathered. Obasi clutched his head. The serpent's riddles, once limited to nights beside its coils, now haunted the waking day. From that morning on, he heard the wind speak constantly. In the market. By the river. Even in the laughter of children, he swore he heard the serpent's song hidden beneath their joy. Nena noticed the change. Her husband no longer looked her in the eye. He wore robes embroidered with snake-like patterns, spoke in cryptic phrases, and kept a locked chest in his study. He rarely held a jack or spoke to Chika. His love, once warm as midday sun, had cooled to the shade of a dying tree. One afternoon, while Obasi visited the forest shrine with Nduka, Nena crept into the study. She knew the chest was locked, but the desk, perhaps, might hold something. Her hands trembled as she pulled open the lowest drawer. There, wrapped in soft black cloth, lay a scroll, old, frayed, and smelling of dust and forgotten time. She carefully unrolled it. The writing was in CBD, the sacred symbols of her ancestors. Though she couldn't read it all, certain phrases burned into her mind like hot iron. Wealth born of earth is sustained by blood. 7 nights to bind. 1 soul to break. Only he who drinks the serpent's breath may sever the chain, with sacrifice. Nena's vision blurred. She clutched the scroll to her chest and whispered, "What have you done, Obasi?" That night, the wind howled. The children whimpered in their sleep as branches scratched the windows like fingernails. The heart's flame dimmed suddenly. Nena reached for her son, only to find his skin cold with sweat. "Ejike," she called, shaking him gently. He didn't answer. His lips moved, but the words were slurred, strange, like chanting in a language not his own. Chika groaned from the mat beside him. Nena sprang to her, heart pounding. The girl's skin glistened with fever, her breath shallow and wheezy. Obasi entered then, humming lowly, oblivious to the scene before him. "Where have you been?" Nena cried. "The children are burning with sickness." He looked at them blankly. "The air is shifting. They will adjust." "Adjust," she screamed. They are dying. Obasi blinked slowly, then turned and walked away, his shadow long and silent. The village began to change. The crops nearest Obasi's home withered overnight. Yams once thick with promise now cracked and hollowed. Okra vines blackened, and the cassava turned to mush. Chickens fled their pens, refusing to return. Children complained of nightmares, visions of a snake slithering across their bellies while they slept. Then one morning, a cry pierced the village. A child, Kochi, the daughter of Mama Ifioma, was found cold and unmoving in her mat. No illness. No wounds. Just stillness. The village elders gathered. Eyes turned toward Obasi's compound. Mama Ifioma swears her child cried out a name before the wind took her breath, one elder whispered. Obasi's name. Another spat on the ground. He walks with spirits. His wealth is cursed. But Obasi, now surrounded by guards and distant advisors sent by foreign traders, no longer bowed to the elders. He smiled politely, gave offerings, and returned home. One night, Nena had enough. She waited until Obasi left for his forest vigil and followed the path he always took. Her wrapper was soaked with dew, her feet sore from thorns, but she pressed on. At the clearing, the moon cast silver light on the serpent. It was waiting. Emerald and immense, eyes aglow, it raised its head as she stepped forward. Nena stood her ground, heart thundering. I am his wife, she said. I bore his children. I fed him when we had nothing. I will not watch him vanish into this madness. The serpent did not speak in words. It pressed its mind into hers. He chose. He sleeps beneath the scale of power. His soul is sealed. Tears streamed down her face. Then break the seal. Bring him back. The serpent lowered its head until it was inches from her. Only he can end the pact. But to break what binds, requires sacrifice. She trembled. What kind of sacrifice? The wealth does not live alone. One must walk into shadow for the other to rise. She fell to her knees. Is there no other way? The serpent recoiled, coils shifting. No gold glows without fire. Choose. Soon. It vanished into the earth with a hiss that echoed like thunder in her ears. The seventh moon rose like an omen, large, red, and rimmed with a faint black halo. It hung in the sky like a silent witness, casting Ekunde in shadows that shimmered unnaturally. Obasi sat on the edge of his massive bed, staring into the void of his chamber. No songbirds greeted the evening. No children played outside. Even the wind, which had grown fond of whispering riddles, now held its breath. Tonight, the pact would end. Or begin anew, with blood. The serpent was waiting. He walked alone to the clearing beneath the ancient Iroko tree, his bare feet crunching over dry leaves that smelled of ash and iron. His once strong body now moved stiffly, aged by guilt more than time. And there it was. The serpent. Larger than ever before, its emerald scales pulsing with light, its coils thick as palm trunks. Its tongue flicked in slow rhythm. Its eyes glowed like twin fires in the mist. Obasi dropped to his knees. I have fulfilled your ritual, he said, voice hollow. 7 nights. I have slept beside you. I have accepted the gift. The serpent's voice slithered through the night like smoke. And now, the final seal. Wealth eternal. Influence beyond death. But one last gift is required. Obasi's lips trembled. What? The serpent uncoiled, revealing something he hadn't expected, a cradle woven from bone and shadow. Within it lay a flickering image of Ejike, his son, his firstborn, sleeping peacefully in their hut, unaware of the danger that stalked his dreams. Obasi scrambled backward. No. No, not my son. The serpent hissed. You fed your soul to the gold. The roots of this power are watered with life. Choose, Obasi. The child, or the wealth. Back in the compound, Nena stirred from uneasy slumber. Her skin prickled. Her heart knew something was wrong. She rose quickly, wrapped herself in a shawl, and crept into Ejike's room. He was gone. Panic flooded her veins. Without waiting, she ran toward the forest, toward the sacred tree. Each step a prayer. Each breath a scream rising in her chest. Obasi wept, clutching the earth. His son's laughter echoed in his ears. Memories of little feet running to greet him after long days in the forest. Of small fingers tugging on his beard. Of the boy asking him to tell stories under moonlight. And now the boy's image hovered before him, a trade for gold. The serpent loomed. You were hungry once. You were invisible. But now kings greet you by name. Let him go. Let the wealth live on. Obasi's fist clenched. I never wanted to lose them. But you did. You gave them up the first night you lay beside me. Obasi shook violently. Then take me. End this. The serpent recoiled. Then paused. You offer yourself. He nodded, chest heaving. If that ends it, yes. Let him live. Let them live. Let me go. A long silence fell. Even the crickets had stilled. A soul bound in blood can only be freed by fire. Then, the serpent struck. But before its fangs met flesh, a scream tore through the trees. Obasi. Nena burst into the clearing, eyes wide with fury and fear. She ran to her husband, shielding him with her arms. You will not take my son. You will not take my husband either. The serpent hissed, rearing back. Nena turned to Obasi, grabbing his face. Do you remember, Obasi? The man who brewed herbs for the sick without coin. The father who sang lullabies. The husband who once said love was more than food. Obasi's eyes filled again. He reached up and touched her hand. I remember. I remember everything. The serpent lunged. Obasi pushed Nena away and leapt straight into the serpent's open mouth. A blast of light exploded from the clearing. Nena fell backward, covering her eyes. The earth shook. The Iroko tree groaned. The serpent screamed, a sound that echoed across the forest like thunder splitting the sky. Its body twisted violently, scales cracking, bleeding light. Then silence. When Nena looked again, the serpent was gone. Only a single coil of ash remained in the dirt. And Obasi. Obasi lay at the base of the Iroko tree, his eyes closed, a faint smile on his lips. His skin had returned to its warm brown glow. No longer pale. No longer cast. His chest did not rise. But peace had returned to his face. Back in the village, the wind changed. The crops near Obasi's compound began to sprout again. The children's fevers broke. Laughter returned slowly, gently. The whispers of spirits faded. Nena buried Obasi beneath the Iroko tree. She returned to their smaller, humbler hut with her children. And though they had little again, there was a richness in their home no gold could match. At night, Ejike would sometimes ask, Mama, where did Papa go? She would smile through tears and say, he went to fight a great beast to protect us. And he won. The Iroko tree stood silent, ancient, and wise. No serpent ever slithered beneath its roots again. No voices rode the wind. Only the soft sigh of the forest, as though the earth itself was breathing in peace at last. Beneath that sacred tree lay Obasi, the man who had once made a deal with darkness, and undone it with love. Nena buried him with her own hands. No ceremony. No drums. Only the whisper of leaves above and the cries of their two children pressed into her skirt. She marked his grave with a carving of their family's old herb symbol, a small clay god with vines calling out, meant to represent healing. Then she walked her children home. But it was not the large, newly built house lined with riches and gifts from chiefs. It was the small, cracked hut they had once called home, humble, but filled with memories that money could never buy. The village watched from a distance. For a time, they whispered, "That is the widow of Obasi. The one who saw the serpent. She must be cursed." But Nene did not curse. She did not hide. She woke early to farm. She visited the sick. She used the last of Obasi's gold, not to build walls or buy titles, but to help rebuild the village's broken well, to send orphan children to the learning house, to buy herbs for the old woman whose knees had long betrayed her. She gave, quietly and without demand. And the village began to change. The whispers became nods of respect. Then greetings. Then request. One moonless evening, a mother came to her, baby in arms, child burning with fever. Nene took the baby in silence, boiled roots, crushed leaves, and whispered the old prayers she had learned watching Obasi walk years before. The fever broke by morning. Word spread, the widow of the serpent speaks to plants. Her hands carry the wisdom of the forest. Soon, villagers brought more than just their sick. They brought their questions, their fears, their hopes. And Nene gave answers, not with riddles like the serpent, but with stories. She became a storyteller. Her voice, once soft with grief, now rang with calm power. Children gathered beneath her veranda to listen. Adults paused in their chores to hear her tales. And always, always, she told them of Obasi. She never hid his mistake. Your father, she told Ejike and little Amoka, was not evil. But he was afraid. He wanted so much to give us everything that he forgot what mattered. She told the story of the serpent, not to scare, but to warn. Never take what is not earned with clean hands. Never give up your soul for cowries. And remember, the greatest riches are those that cannot be weighed. The story spread like wildfire, reaching far beyond Ekunde. Travelers carried it to distant markets and shrines. And it changed with every telling. Sometimes Obasi was a prince, sometimes a hunter, sometimes a farmer who plucked gold from a snake's tongue. But the truth of it remained. He chose love over wealth. And paid with his life. Years passed. Ejike grew into a tall, broad-shouldered young man. Though he remembered little of the serpent's night, he carried a quiet strength and a sharp mind. He studied plants, like his father, and could name every leaf by scent alone. Amoka, quick and clever, learned her mother's stories by heart and added her own, with laughter and mischief woven through. When they came of age, they refused the gift of lords who offered them positions and palaces. We will stay, Ejike said, where truth lives. They became leaders, not by title, but by heart. In time, Nena's hair turned white as moonlight. Her voice softened with age, but her eyes still burned with the fire of knowing. She was no longer called the widow. She was Mama Nena, keeper of stories, mother of wisdom. One dry season, when the sun baked the ground hard as stone, a boy from another village asked her, "Mama, do you miss the gold?" She laughed gently. "I miss the man who gave it all up." Then she added, "And child, listen to me well, wealth is not a house with many rooms. It is a home where love waits, even in hunger. The sacred tree still stands. Sometimes, children dare each other to sleep near it. Some say they hear whispers. But no serpent has returned. Instead, travelers leave small gifts at its roots, beads, food, carved tokens of thanks. For it has become a shrine, not to a snake, but to a choice. To a man who once nearly lost his soul, and found it again through sacrifice. And so the story of Obasi lives on. Passed from lips to heart across the lands. A tale of a poor herbalist. A serpent of gold. And a widow who turned sorrow into strength.